can remember sitting at work, different jobs that I had where it wasn't a radio type job where I was in the same place all day and there'd be that gal or that guy and they'd be sitting there about 2:15 or something. I guess I should get something to eat. I'm like, I'd be dead by now. I'd be so worthless if I didn't eat. My body is like a car. It's like a finely tuned automobile.
Yeah.
I need fuel.
Yeah,
I got to
you
go.
feel do you have to have breakfast and lunch, or can you not? You can just go without breakfast. And you
Oh,
just
no.
gotta
I have
get
to
lunch.
eat every meal that's available all the time.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm that way too. Yeah, sometimes when I am not even hungry, I'm just conditioned to eat. Even if it's something even if it's just a yogurt, a banana, something, I got to eat something.
Well, remember once upon a time, everybody said you keep eating all the time a little bit, and that'll keep your metabolism going. Remember that was a big thing. Yeah, and I'm like, I'm way ahead of my.
Is that still true or no?
No, I think now they tell you got to fast if that's how you got to do it. You got to not eat. So
See, this is where guys like me
complete
just
opposite.
Yes.
I just get
don't eat all the time.
I get truly confused. So they've lied to us all this time now. Mhm.
Total 180.
Yeah.
How could
Isn't that
we
crazy?
get, though, how could science be so far off that a few years down the road, they're like, remember all that stuff we said, we've been telling you to do this? Don't do that. Do the opposite. Go 9 hours and don't eat a thing. That's how you fix it. Don't eat. After we told you, eat a small meal every 3 or 4 hours. No. Take that food that we told you to pre-cook in your Tupperware bowls so you'd have 10 small meals. No. Go throw that away because you're not supposed to eat for 9 hours today. I don't get it. How does science go from that far? And I'm not trying to get started on science here, but like food science, let's say. How do we go from one side to the other so quickly? Titans need to go from one side to the other really quickly. 38-13 is in the rearview mirror. They are back at practice today. We've talked a lot about flushing, but not forgetting. One of the things that's going to have to happen, though, Blaine, Amani Hooker had a pretty nice start, and that dude's on IR now. So Bradley
he hurt his
McDougall,
foot.
step on up. Yeah.
Oh, so that means Crookshank's still going to be the backup.
That's probably what that's going to mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going with the experience there.
Bradley McDougall,
Yeah,
elevated.
he's a solid player. Solid. Yeah.
He's played a lot. He's played 30 years old. He's played 106 games. He started 82 games for 5 franchises over 8 NFL seasons. I wrote this down. He was a starter for Seattle for 3 years.
Oh, so yeah, he has a lot of insight to Metcalf, or Lockett, or Russell Wilson. Oh, I hope he just doesn't tell him the total truth. Hey, he looks like a beast. At Metcalf, he's big, strong, and fast. I don't know what we're going to do with him.
Just to be honest with you, I couldn't do anything with him in practice, so I'm fully expecting him to crush us. Seriously, what guys go to other teams, and sometimes in the middle of the season, you'll see some free agent dude, and he gets picked up by a team. It just so happens, like the Dolphins will sign an expatriate the week they play the Patriots, things like that. How much can those guys tell you? Because I know they can tell you, this was our check for this. This when we saw this look, this is what we went to. Do NFL teams kind of change that stuff? Would they change some stuff year to year just so you couldn't switch teams and go, here's everything they do?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to give you 2 different versions of it. When I was with the Titans, someone gave us like the checks, a former player, on that current team. And then we went out there and they were prepared for it all and they duped us. Right. So I said, well, I'm never going to do that again.
Okay.
Yeah, I was honed in. I had everything memorized. It was like a cheat sheet.
Yes.
All right. So I get to Philly. I'm on Philly. We're playing the Titans. And here's what I did just from that experience. I said, well, can you help us out on the offense? I said, 27 left, 27 right. That's you need to be ready for that. Then McNair scrambling. How good is Steve? No, they didn't ask how Steve. They said, how good is Eddie George? I said, as good as that film says. Yeah, that's it. I gave them nothing. I said, watch the tape. I said, but the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I mean, like I hope y'all not, thinking, because he's from that kind of area, Philly, New Jersey.
Yes.
And I was like, well, yeah, he's really good now, but hey, he's just like all the rest of the big backs.
Right.
Yeah, so he's not it's no different than the other big backs that are really good that's in the league, so that's kind of how I view it. I said, oh yeah, he runs about as good as probably Corey Dillon. They're like, oh, they did exactly what you did. Oh.
You've told stories about Corey Dillon.
With a little more speed. So I was just, there you go. So that's it. So I would never, because if you step in that puddle, now you're going to live and then they're going to come back and say, hey man, what do you, you told us the wrong stuff. No, that's what they did there. They were prepared. So I just told them, hey, man, check out the film. The guys are as good as the film says.
When the game started, did they do some of the same? Would you
Of the Titans?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Okay.
Well, they did everything normal. They tried to dupe me. They tried to dupe me. They tried to play extra pass because they thought I was going to try to go up here and run up there and just knock everybody out.
Right.
And I didn't. Because guess what?
Did you study?
No, I did not.
No.
No,
I mean, you had studied,
I studied already.
Yeah.
But no, Wednesday at practice, I was in the backfield and they throwing over the top of my head. Thursday, I'm halfway and they throwing over my head. Andy Reid said, hey, man, I'm going to get you to slow down. That was the only week that I practiced by full speed. So by Friday, I was calmed down and playing the safety and too deep and just staying in my lane and doing my job. Yeah, because he knew it was going to be emotional. He had a conversation with me. Hey, this game is going to be emotional, so you need to taper that emotion down and just remember, it's just another team. And that really helped me out a lot. It really did. Because emotionally, I would have been just, oh, man, I would have run around with my head cut off out there. So, yeah, it was a good day for me. I mean, we lost, but yeah, so it didn't feel so good. But, yeah. So that's how you got to be when you're a player going to another team. That's what I learned. Some people will be like, nah, I'm telling them everything. Because when we used to get, like, even scouting reports from other players, and I'd be like, you said that guy runs a 4.6, man. Hey, I watched him on tape. That 4.6 run by a lot of people.
Right.
I said, so maybe he runs a 4.5 with equipment on.
Right. He's football fast.
Yeah. He's game day speed is different than at practice. So it's just kind of hard to lean on it. Just still go on what you're seeing and believe it as a player through the videotape that you're studying. Yeah.
I would imagine the things mostly that guy could help, especially starting their 3 years, would be the things you talked about where he could tell you things about individuals. Hey, man, he really likes to get the ball here.
Yeah.
Hey, on a dig route, he'll do this instead of this. He'll run this. Just giving you some individual traits because, like you said, they can always change keys and they can change their
plays,
things adjustments that they would do at the line of scrimmage. But he could probably give you some stuff like, I'll tell you what that dude hates.
Oh, yeah, individual breakdown of the individual as a player. Yeah, they can. That should be on point all the time. But some guys, even if you're with a team long, they just kind of really just play because they think it's just practice. They're not really evaluating. It was just part of my DNA. Just for me, I was evaluating everybody, especially the skill guys. Mm-hmm. I was always, that's just, it was, I kept a scouting report on every player. I wanted to have that cheat sheet to make me feel comfortable. So I had the cheat sheet on Frank Wycheck. Yeah, was it? Oh, he's going to be a great route runner. He's going to give you something and then try to take it away. He's going to run the whip and run the out. So then I learned how to play that at practice. So I knew that would never be a problem. If I can guard Frank Wycheck on these whip routes, nobody in the NFL is going to give me any problem. Mm. Yeah, see, that's for these small intermediate routes. Mm-hmm.
But that's you use in practice, not just to learn a game plan or something for that week. That's you using practice. You're playing chess instead of checkers. Like, okay, all right, Frank. Okay, here's what we'll do.
Oh, because he was toasting me at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, like everybody else. I was like, that ain't going to keep happening there.
He's going to get lost because tight ends are catching 800, 900, 1,000 balls
right.
now. He's going to get lost in the numbers game. But
doing his time. He was one of the best.
I mean, he had 500 catches when tight ends didn't have 500 catches. Frank Wycheck had 500 catches. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The game's just changed so much, but boy, the dude was good, and that guy he was such a security blanket for McNair for all those years. Like he knew where 89 was going to be.
Yeah. And they have a pretty good tight end in Seattle. Since we're going to go back there, Everett, man, underrated, very good athlete, can run. He was with the Rams last year. Got a little banged up over the last couple of years, but man, he's a handful. They got a good running back, 2 really good receivers, and we all know what Russell Wilson. So this is going to be a tough task. So, I mean, tough. That's interesting. Based off what we saw, is this a tougher task than this past week? As far as the offense, the offense that you're facing. I don't know. Hopkins, AJ Green. I still going to give it. I'm still going to give it to Seattle.
Okay.
Just because of their
that's not
experience.
good news.
But no. Now here's the difference is
they're
not going to come out flat and lay an egg.
Well, they're
going to give their best punch, and if they lose that way, you can live with that as an athlete. Really. I mean, for me, it was always my preparation, if I got beat for a touchdown, it was all because he beat me because he was just a better athlete on that play.
Right.
I couldn't have done anything else technically wise, to make a play. Could I strip the ball? But if he jumps, I got beat by Randy Moss. I jump up and I'm like looking at the ball, barely go over my fingertips in the back of the end zone. And I go, there's no way Randy Moss can get to this ball. He jumps up and sticks his long paw out there, one arm, and one hands it, and toe taps on the sideline, just like Hopkins. And I'm turning around while I'm coming down, looking at him, and see him doing it. And I wish I was close enough to just punch him in his gut. Maybe he would have dropped it, but I wasn't. So, yeah, I might have done it if I was close, too. And I just like, man, there's nothing. I couldn't have done anything. So then I walked to the sideline with, hey, he was a better player than me right there.
Yeah.
Obviously, he is a better player than a lot of people because he's in the Hall of Fame.
Straight to the Hall of Fame for that guy. Yeah. What did you say, Lucas?
So there's a word for that.
Yeah. What's that?
Got mossed.
Yeah, right. I got mossed.
Literally, it's a term. Thank you, Lucas. Yeah, it's a whole segment on the Monday night show.
Yeah, I was still a little perturbed, though. Yeah,
I know you got him back.
Not really.
No?
Yeah, that was one of those ones because that was more of a touchdown, and at that time he was still young in his career.
Yeah,
I think it might have been his third year. And based off my study habits of what they like to utilize him as, he ran most of his routes outside the numbers. So he never ran a crossing route. He may have ran a dig or two here or there, but he was basically isolated outside because they knew he was such a phenomenal athlete and he was so fast. So it was one of those coverages where, we were like in the 25 and there's no, we had to play a little bit of zone. And so I thought I had X'd off the back of the end zone, especially with my vertical.
Right.
Boy, I was like, how the heck he got throw that? I'm getting this. And then when it went up, I was like, oh, man, this guy. Well, so that's what they're going to face. A guy like Metcalf and Lockett, a speed demon. These guys are going to they present problems in certain instances where you're going to lose some of those battles just based off of Metcalf's size. But you got to be technical, and you don't try to battle his strength with their strength. Right. I was watching the Eagles game when he played, Metcalf played the Eagles. The corner, and he's a real good corner, try to go at him physically. Why? Why? You want to show him you're a man? Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm going to show you how tough. Guess what I want to show him is that I'm real good. I'm smart, man, and you're not catching no balls over here. Mm-hmm. I'm going to use my feet to beat you. Yeah, and Lockett, I may try to get physical with Lockett because one of the best deep ball catchers alive. So how can I slow this little cat down early? Because then if I get in a foot race, I lose.
Right.
I lose. So you got to have this strategy. I think a lot of guys don't come in with strategies. They just come in like, I'm going to do what I do, and that's it. Well, I mean, every game's a different game in its own. Maybe you do some press bell. Show them a little something that you hadn't done. Yeah, like the Titans, DBs. Everybody always asks me every week, every time I walk in a restaurant somewhere, why are they playing 8 to 10 yards off? And I'm tired of coming up with different answers for them. So I just say, hey, man, you're supposed to come in with a game plan. Now, you know what they do. Do press bail. You can play off, and you can play, press. Mm-hmm. You can't just line up and do the same thing every play. These guys are too good. How about this? I'm going to line up 10 yards away from Metcalf or Lockett, and I'm going to just let him run at me full speed with his speed and think I'm a cover.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Going deep.
All right.
Yeah, that don't.
I'm going to catch that guy turning around with him having a 10-yard head start. Nope.
I mean, so, you got to come up with some different plans, a plan of attack for your individual battles. So that to me is the key to a lot of player success.
Well, we'll get into a lot more of that today. You want to sound off on something? You want to talk about what you've seen? Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline will get you to us, 615-737-1045. Rumor has it Jimmy Hyams is set to talk to us today next. So stick around. We'll all find out if that's true. Hope to talk Vols with Jimmy Hyams next. Blaine and Mickey.
If it happens on Rocky Top, it also happens here. Get the best Vols football coverage
all week, and then listen to every game with Bob Kessling and Pat Ryan all season on your home for Vols football. 104.5 The Zone.
Got my buddy Ryan Kelly on.
join you today, so I apologize.
Oh, man, we blame Lucas for all the things that go wrong, and you just gave him an out on this one.
It was Lucas's fault. I'm sorry. I think he apologized.
Nah, just kidding, Jimmy.
Jimmy Hyams, our guest. I wanted to start with this, Jimmy, because it was such an interesting game. Did you leave that game thinking, gosh, this team has all kinds of talent? You don't commit 3 turnovers. You don't commit 13 penalties. They beat those guys because I'll tell you, I'm asking you this from a journalist point of view because I saw my neighbor outside in his UT hat after the game, and he was just walking in circles. And I said, you got to feel good, though, right? They got some talent. He goes, I feel bad because it's the same result that it always seemed to be. But maybe there is a silver lining, right?
I thought there was a silver lining. You touched on a couple of things. You get beat 3-zip in turnovers. You commit 13 penalties. You have a touchdown nullified by a block in the back. You twice get inside the 5-yard line without scoring a touchdown. You miss open receivers downfield multiple times. And yet there you are with a chance to win the football game with 5 minutes left. My takeaway on that is if you had played a relatively clean game, you beat Pitt. Now, a lot of times when I analyze a team, I look at their potential and see if they can reach it. And the potential to me for Tennessee is actually pretty good. If they can eliminate a lot of those mistakes, I think they can be a pretty good football team. But I like the design of what they did. I mean, you saw the receivers run wide open. That's pretty good play calling and scheme and design. I also think the run defense is pretty good, too. They've done a nice job in that regard. But the one thing that's without argument, I don't think, they've got to get better play at quarterback. That's going to be a key going forward. But I was actually more encouraged, even in that defeat, than I've been about Tennessee in a while, because here's the other thing, too. You got down a couple of touchdowns multiple times in the second half, and you didn't throw in the towel. You fought back. You gave yourself a chance to win. And I don't – in the past, under Jeremy Pruitt, when they got down, they weren't coming back. And now they have an offense that allows them to rally if they do fall behind by a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, they definitely – if they got down under Pruitt, they finished the job and got blown out, it seems like more often than not. So how is Joe Milton doing, do you know? And then, B, let's say that he is healthy. Is he the best option at quarterback for this team, or do they need to call a hooker?
I asked Josh Heupel if Milton were ready to go. He said, first off, he said he hadn't named the starting quarterback. And this was on the SEC teleconference a couple hours ago. As far as Joe Milton, he said that it remains to be seen whether he'll be available. That makes me wonder how much he's practicing. I think they're going to Hendon Hooker. I think Hooker deserves to start. I thought he played well against Pittsburgh, except for a couple of mistakes. That was a bad throw late that was intercepted. He just didn't see the safety. He also had a fumble. But I just think he looked more comfortable at quarterback. He's a better runner than Milton, although Milton can run. I thought he had command of the offense. And I think he's Tennessee's best option right now. Now, after the Florida game, I may change my mind. But right now, based on what I've seen, I think he is the best choice. And I just don't know if Milton's ever going to – look, the rap on him at Michigan was he was inaccurate, he didn't have very good touch, and his decision-making. Well, those things have shown up again at Tennessee. I don't know if he can get out of it. Look, the guy is immensely talented, but he's not a really good quarterback right now, in my opinion.
Jimmy Hyams, our guest here on the Blaine and Mickey Show, talking Tennessee Vols.
Well, Coach, I mean, Jimmy, most coaches say this about super talented players. You are who you are in year 4, and that is actually who Joe Milton is.
Yeah.
I mean, and so there's no changing and going back. He's shown it again. So when you watch the game, I'm with you. Hooker just looks like the better quarterback. Just imagine this, Jimmy. If you put Pickett on the quarterback for Pittsburgh on UT's team, they blow them out by 30.
I definitely think Tennessee wins if Pickett's a quarterback. Now, here's the one thing. If I were to give Milton a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, I don't know what Michigan asked him to do. I don't know what his reads were. I don't know the scheme. I don't know those things. And conversely, I don't know how it differs from what Tennessee's asking him to do. It is only a 2-game sample, but what I've seen in 2 games, he overthrows, He had receivers running wide open against Bowling Green. He didn't see him. And that gets back to some of your decision making. It also gets back to seeing the field. And I just didn't get out of him that he's going to be the guy that's a difference maker for Tennessee at quarterback. So I think you give Hooker a chance. Heck, they may end up giving Harrison Bailey a chance. I don't know. But right now, Hooker would be my guy. It would be his to lose right now.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I'm interested to see, okay, where is Harrison Bailey? Like, he has no shot. He is clearly the number 3. Why hasn't he even been given opportunity? What have he shown in practice that he can't even get a shot or a sniff, really, at this point, which he could be a play away going into this game if Hooker starts?
Well, it's a good question. I don't know. So last year he started 3 games late in the year, all against SEC teams. He completed about 75% of his passes. He was clearly Tennessee's best quarterback in the spring game. Now, having said all that, Josh Heupel still went out and found him another quarterback, right? So there must have been something about Bailey and Hooker and Brian Maurer, who's no longer here, that concerned him. But today, when Heupel was asked about Bailey, he said he's smart, he's competitive, he plays for his teammate, he affects his teammates in a positive way, and he's a really good leader. Now, what he didn't say is he's a great passer. So I don't know what's happened. We don't have access to practice anymore, and I'm not sure what's going on there. But, Blaine, here's the thing that could get really interesting. Let's say you've got a 35-0 lead on Tennessee Tech, and you say, okay, we're going to put Harrison Bailey in, and he goes 10 for 10 for 200 yards with 3 touchdowns. Now what do you got? So it's
three quarterbacks you don't know what to do with.
Yeah, it's a real interesting situation that Tennessee has right now. I know that Heupel keeps saying they got 3 quarterbacks that they trust, and I'm sure he's got to say that publicly, but I just don't know where they are. Obviously, they got to get better play quarterback. Maybe Hooker's the answer. Maybe Milton coming off the bench would be the answer. I don't know. They say he completes these passes in practice, but I haven't seen it in a game yet. And maybe it's Bailey if you give him a chance. I don't know, but I think the quarterback position at Tennessee is a pretty significant concern right now.
I know it's always tough to find out about injuries in college, but, you know, with the running back and we didn't see Beckwith play at all. I don't know where he's at. Maybe he doesn't understand the pass protection pro. I thought we may see him a little bit in the rotation in the second half there with Reich doing all the work, as well as Hyatt. Where are we at with Hyatt and his health and just in general, Cooper Mays? I mean, where are we at? Are they going to let a lot of guys rest this game? What do you think?
Blaine, I think they're going to let a number of guys rest, but Heupel was asked for an injury update today, and he gave nothing. He wouldn't tell us anything about who's out, who's not. Cooper Mays at center, you mentioned him. Jalen Hyatt was hurt. Now, a number of these guys I would hold out because it is Tennessee Tech, and I want to make sure they're 100%. Tyon Evans was not injury-related. I expect him back and playing. I don't know if Jabari Small is going to be ready to go. I did have a bit of an issue with the play they ran at the end of the half. If you're doing a give-up play, take a knee. Don't hand it to your running back, in particular when your other running back is out of the game. I didn't really like that, but there are a lot of people that are out that have been injured or banged up, and so we don't know their status, and that includes Joe Milton, but we don't know their status for the game on Saturday, and Heupel won't tell us. And I think what I see out of him is we will not find those things out until about 30 minutes before kickoff.
Well, speaking about, you know, kneeling and everything else, what did you think about the 4th down run up the middle pretty much? And they had success with that play actually earlier in the game, right?
I didn't like it because, one, it was Jalen Wright, who may weigh 180 pounds. I don't know. If you're running with Tyon Evans, who's 220, that's a little different. The other thing is Heupel said they didn't execute the play right. That tells me that Hooker was probably supposed to keep the ball on that play. And I don't know. I can't say he'd have scored, but I think he had some room on the outside to get the first down. So, but I'm not first off, I'm not a fan of being in the shotgun on 4th and a foot.
Right.
I don't like that. But a lot of teams are doing it. Tennessee's not the only one that's doing it. A lot of folks do. But I thought it was when he handed it off to him up the middle, I'm thinking, uh-oh, and he got stuffed. But I think Hooker was supposed to keep the football there. I think that's where the lack of execution occurred.
A lot of people are saying that it was a called play, and I don't know if actually Hooker could have pulled it out. And, and that's what they're saying. That was a play that they ran earlier. It was a miscue on the blocking assignment more so than it was an option for the quarterback to keep it. So I'm not sure what's the answer to that.
I'm not either, and the coaches are not going to tell us that, but I don't know which one it was. I've heard both, and I'm not sure. Obviously, it wasn't blocked well at all. But here's another thing, too, and this is just me, and they don't pay me the big bucks to be a coach. But if I'm in that situation, I'm running an option. I'm not having a pre-planned call, giving it to a freshman running back who's playing his second game. That is not the call I'm making. If I'm making a call like that, my quarterback's going to have an option to keep it or hand off. So I'm not going to say that that's not what they did, but if that's what the call was, I would strongly disagree with it.
We are with the great Jimmy Hyams, keeping it real from Sports Radio WNML in Knoxville.
Now, Jimmy, I know at NML you guys have got all the latest technology and, satellite feeds and everything. Have you seen anything yet, the play before the one that we're talking about, that could convince you that that wasn't a first down? How do you miss a spot on a play like that?
Good question. There are a couple of things that work here. So first off, I thought the linesman was a little bit out of position when he spotted it. Secondly, when you've got a situation where it's very close to first down, you don't pick the ball up and throw it toward the hash mark. You measure it where the guy's down. Okay, so that was a procedural error. The replay official should have stopped it to take a look at it to see whether they got the first down. And here's the other thing, and this is a little bit annoying to me. For whatever reason, ESPN, the SEC Network, and others have reduced the number of cameras they have at games. There was not a shot down the line going from east to west to tell you where that ball should have been spotted. They did have a camera going from west to east, but the play was so far away you couldn't tell based on that camera. Why in the world do you not have two cameras down there, one going either direction? So that, to me, was another problem that they have. When you got games of this magnitude, get another camera down there. But they're trying to clean up the sidelines, and they're trying to save money, and so they don't have enough camera angles to give you a great shot. Now, I'll say this. The first couple of shots I saw you could not determine it because there were shots from like the 50-yard line. Right. You can't tell. But there was a still shot that I saw where his feet, his helmet, and the ball were beyond the 2-yard line. That's the one that convinced me it was a first down. But that is a mistake officials cannot make, and they made several mistakes, including the procedural mistake of picking the football up and throwing it toward the hash mark.
Jimmy Hyams, our guest. Well, the other thing that I'm still, my mind is trying to clear up is the whole kick six, offsetting penalties, and who could have had the ball and what could have happened. If that whole thing was absolutely wild.
I got that one for you. I got the answer. Good. All right, here's the deal. So when you have post-possession offsetting penalties, and both teams accept the penalty, you replay the down. Tennessee could have maintained possession of the football if they had declined the penalty on Pitt. However, if they had declined the penalty, the block in the back occurred on about the 10-yard line, so Tennessee would have taken over on its own 5. And Josh Heupel told me when I asked him this, he said, I didn't want it on my own 5. I wanted them to re-kick, try field goal, or punt it because I thought the percentages suggested we'd get the ball at better than our own 5-yard line. Now, they ended up getting it on the 3, so it was a 2-yard difference. But that's the rule. If Tennessee had declined the penalty, they'd have gotten the ball, but they would have gotten it on their own 5-yard line.
Man, Jimmy Hyams just teaching us today on Blaine.
Man, educating us there.
Yeah.
Jimmy, just one more before we let you go, and that is, man, I was looking at the past 2 seasons of Heupel at UCF, and those teams gave up a lot. They had a lot of penalties, too, as well. Yep. So it's kind of following that same MO here with Tennessee, which cost them really the game to a certain extent because you never know with those penalties. So is that an issue, just a Heupel thing, or is just coincidental, you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I guess as the season progresses, we'll find out. But the last couple of years, Central Florida was one of the most penalized teams in the country. They ranked 126 with 92 penalties in 2020, and then 2019 they ranked 127th in penalties. That's not good. Look, you expect some penalties, and when you run a fast-paced offense, I think you're going to get some illegal procedures, but you can't have personal fouls. You can't block in the back. You can't pick somebody up and slam dunk him like you're in a wrestling match. That's illegal. You can't do that. And so they got to be more disciplined. And it cost them, as you pointed out, 13 penalties for 134 yards. They're not good enough to beat a team like Pitt. So it gets back to discipline. And as we proceed through the season, I want to see what Tennessee does. Do they continue to get double-digit penalties, or can they cut that number down to a reasonable manner, which is about 5 or 6? But that remains to be seen. But it is alarming when you look at the amount of penalties they had at Central Florida under Josh Heupel.
Hey, Jimmy, one more. I'm going to try to squeeze this in. And I'm not a coach, and you're not a coach. But, man, they seem to start off like gangbusters in that first quarter. In the second quarter, they seem to just slow down, and maybe they are fatigued from the pace of how they're running plays. And maybe that's why they're making mistakes, and maybe they should just kind of slow it down maybe and kind of level it off, not, go like a normal team, but maybe not go quite as fast. I mean, has that ever been asked? I know that's his style, so you could say, well, this is what we do. But at the same time, if you're making mistakes and then there's a grave difference between quarter one and quarter two, then obviously you have to start looking at other things.
Well, I'm not a coach, but I play one on Saturdays. So,
yeah, from the couch, right?
I don't know if that's the issue. If it's the issue, why doesn't it show up in the third and fourth quarter? I don't know the answer to that, Blaine. It's a good question. They were awful against Bowling Green in the second quarter. They were awful against Pitt in the second quarter. They got outscored 27-0. I don't know all the reasons for that, but it doesn't make any sense for me that you're tired out in the second quarter, but in the fourth quarter or the second half, that's not apparent. So I guess that's another thing I want to see. That's a small sample size. Right. I want to see going forward if that continues to rear its head, and if it does, then you obviously have an issue. What that issue is, I'm not sure. But you're supposed to be in better shape than your opponent. So you should not be tiring yourself out. Maybe they are. But I want to see what happens in the next few games if they continue to struggle in the second quarter like they have the first two games. It's a good point.
Cool.
Jimmy Hyams, he's never tired. He always covers the opponent. WNML at Jimmy Hyams on Twitter. Jimmy, thank you, man. Let's do this again soon for sure.
I'd love to. Mickey, thanks for having me. Blaine, good to visit with you. You guys take care. Have a great afternoon.
Appreciate it, Jimmy.
Sir, the OG right there, Jimmy Hyams. Ryan Tannehill said a bunch of stuff today. Kind of looked forward, kind of looked backward. Let's hear from the Titans quarterback next. It's Blaine and Mickey. I mean, I got to answer the call. What's going on, man? You're
Do
on.
what?
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
How you
Kirk?
doing?
Good.
I just want to tell you, I know the Titans had a bad outing, but they usually do in week one, besides the Cleveland game. But that Cardinals team, after watching it live and then rewatching it a couple times, they check all the boxes. They are a legitimate contender, and they're going to have a lot of disappointed people when they play them this year. We might need to be giving them the flowers instead of just bashing the Titans. We wasn't ready for that buzzsaw. Just like the caller the other day said, I had to rewatch it. They might just be that good.
Kirk, I appreciate the phone call. They are good. And it's what's funny was going into the season, everything I could find out about the Cardinals was people were asking the question, gosh, did they do enough? Does JJ still have anything in the tank? You know, did they spend, was James Conner a good acquisition? Mm-hmm. You know, did they have enough at cornerback? Should they have done more? And then Malcolm Butler he's semi-retired or gone away on personal leave or whatever it is. The question from the Cardinals' point of view was all, because around here it was like, gosh, they did lots of great stuff. Will it all gel together, even though they didn't practice? But in Arizona, it was like, did they do enough? Sure looked on Sunday like they did enough.
No, this team is a formidable team, and they cause all kind of problems offensively with the quarterback, to let alone their receivers. But really, Chandler Jones really was the impactful player that really kind of disrupted everything about what the Titans wanted to do on offense, as well as J.J. Watt. And then once they got behind, they kept hammering them offensively. We couldn't stop them getting critical third down stops when needed when we got back into the game. But I want the listener to think about this. Seattle Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers. Who's the other team in there? They may finish fourth in their division. Yeah. And out of the four teams, one of them won't make it. The Rams. I'm sorry. Yeah. So they could actually get fourth place in their division because everybody probably split up amongst each other and may not even make the playoffs. Think about that. NFC West, by the way, they're East.
No, West.
West. NFC West went undefeated. Yeah. All those teams, the Rams, 49ers, they have a real that's the toughest division right now. I think the AFC West went undefeated as well.
That's pretty. Hey, if you're out west, you're pretty stout right now.
Yeah. So to the caller's point, they are really good, but they still may not make the playoffs because of their division. Yeah.
Ryan Tannehill spoke today, Blaine, and he may have agreed with the caller. He said the Titans essentially got hit in the mouth.
I don't know. It's tough to say, but I think, we kind of got hit in the mouth early, right? And we go out and didn't get the start that we wanted, and we didn't respond well. It took us 4 drives before we moved the ball. So, that's unacceptable. We have to be able to respond quickly. There's going to be games where you come out and don't get the start you want. You go 3 and out. So what? You have to be able to reset and come out the next drive swinging and make a play. So, that'll be a challenge for us moving forward is if things don't go perfectly, if things don't go well early or at some point in the game, okay, go to the sideline, make the adjustments, and come out swinging the next drive.
He also got asked today, and I know, Lucas, you got this too, about the impact of the lack of preseason practice together. That's a subject that keeps coming up. Here's the Titans quarterback on that.
Yeah, it could have been. I don't really know. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We didn't do it, and that's on us. So moving forward, we have to be able to respond better, to come out and play our game no matter what's going on. Even if things hadn't gone well or if things did go really well, you get a first drive. You can't coast. You have to be able to come out each drive with a purpose, with a passion, and play with energy and play our style of football.
It was really interesting, Blaine, because we would talk about this each week during the preseason. Like, gosh, this one team played all their starters in game 1. And then the next week's like they played them in week 2. Then some played them in week 3. Some never played any. Mm-hmm. Everybody had a different strategy. Once upon a time in a regular old 4-game NFL, there were a handful of guys that over the years stopped playing in the preseason. But most all teams kind of did it all the same way. A little bit in the first, a little bit more in the second, dress rehearsal in the third, sit the starters in the fourth, let the backups kind of battle for the last few spots. With the 3-game preseason, people's strategies were all over the place. And I bet they'll even change again next year as teams adapt to this.
Yeah, I think, I was saying all along that I thought you should play, at least 10 or 12 plays. Yeah. You had a scrimmage in there that get the guys revved up, but, you just never know. A lot of the teams that did play their players, let's go Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Real good teams, they played in the preseason, and then they did fairly well. It's a crapshoot. There were some teams that also played some teams and didn't play. Now, here's the hypothetical. See, if you play some guys a la Baltimore Ravens, you can get some guys injured and are out for the season. So you really can't win here. You just try to scoot through it some kind of way. And a lot of the players weren't available at times for the Titans. So not all the players, but some of them weren't. So, do you want to put Tannehill out there and you got, 3 of the offensive linemen starters not playing? I probably wouldn't have played them either. So all of it was about availability of some, and I think it's really the offensive line, and then you want to put your star stud running back and quarterback out there. And then the receivers were injured. So, unfortunately, I feel like they should always play to a certain extent. Maybe that was their preseason game, and now they'll be ready to rock and roll because there's a whole different level of intensity level and speed that goes from preseason, scrimmage preseason to regular season, let alone playoffs, then, Super Bowl. So, hopefully they, figure it out and get going. They got another tough opponent, so it doesn't really matter at this point. I completely agree. There's nothing else that Tannehill could say. It doesn't really matter. We weren't ready to play. I don't know if we would have played the preseason. They bust us in the mouth so bad we couldn't even pick ourselves back up quick enough to respond. So yeah, they brought a can of what, and then they couldn't handle it. Chandler Jones had I had never seen anything like that at the pro level. Seriously, where it's like
I thought of like the one day Derek Thomas had back in the day.
Yeah, right. Remember it was against was Dave Craig with the quarterback in Seattle at the time?
I think it was Seattle, yeah.
Yeah, so 3 sacks in the first quarter? Man, that's wow. So, hey, it happens. But guess what? You can look back and, man, maybe they needed that gut punch. Hopefully you can look back and say that. And that made them come out and understand that this is how we got to play this season. Not last year, fans. Not last year. Last year was last year. This year is a new year, regardless if it's the same players or not. That's why a lot of people change on the rosters. Some guys may get better. Some guys may stay the same. And some guys may start getting decrepit, and real old with the cane. Real quick. So you just never know.
We know this. Hour number 2 is coming up, and Jordan Dajani is set to join us in a little over 20 minutes with NFL headlines. We'll go all around the league with our buddy from CBS Sports. It's Blaine and Mickey. It is 104.5 The Zone. Steven Gostkowski, and that dude's probably somewhere with the Titans number on block, I would imagine. Like, okay, yeah. Then they had Sloman, who made one of the biggest kicks in team history to help them win the division. Sam Sloman in one game. So he is in Gostkowski, Sloman not currently kicking right now. Ryan Suckup in 2019. Ryan Suckup, who's now with Tampa, won their first game, won the Super Bowl. Cairo Santos, who's in Chicago now. Greg Joseph, who's in Minnesota. Cody Parkey, who I think is currently unemployed. And, oh, there you go. And Ryan Santoso, who was with Carolina, but I think has already been cut. Again, he only kicked off for the Titans. Those are all the guys. So Bagley, Gostkowski, Sloman, Suckup, Santos, Joseph, Parkey, Santoso, and now Randy Bullock. Come on down. 9 kickers. Santoso, by the way, never even kicked a field goal for the Titans. He just kicked off for 3 games. So Bullock is a 9-year vet. Last 4 years with the Bengals. Made 21 of 26 field goals, 24 of 25 extra points last year. He is also, a lot of Titans fans who know him, remember he was in Houston for a minute.
Oh, okay.
So he was, a lot of times.
Yeah, I was paying attention to the kickers.
Why do I know that guy's name?
Yeah, well, what's that? I was thinking Bullock, Keith Bullock.
No, this is not Keith
Hey,
Bullock.
well, you know what? They need to give him a call. I think he can kick.
I bet Keith Bullock could kick.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
Keith
now.
Yeah. He's one of those elite level athletes. He could at least do kickoff. He probably could make about a 30-yard field goal, though. He's that kind of dude.
Well, I mean, I never heard the end of that song before.
Yeah.
They just faded down. That's a nice abrupt ending. So Bullock has kicked for Houston, the Jets, the Giants. So both New York teams. Maybe he just kept the same apartment in Pittsburgh very briefly, I believe, maybe a game or so. But I told you, when it comes to kickers and punters, I just picture this island somewhere, and that's where they all live. And so an NFL GM, they don't even pick the one that they want. They just phone the island, and they say, send us somebody. So you don't know who you're getting. They get the Titans guy.
Right. All jokes aside, you really don't know what you're getting. He
Randy
can come
Bullock.
in here and hit 21 out of 21,
Right.
or he can hit 1 out of 21. We have no idea. You just hope that he stays healthy. That too, man. You know, as a head coach, I would be sick to my stomach just about kicking. I would be sicker more about that than we got our butts because I would figure that won't happen again. The guys are too competitive natured. NFL players, it's just not going to happen. Not like that anyway. That don't mean you're going to win, but that's not going to happen. But this kicking situation, oh, man, we can't win for losing. What did you say? They have 9? I think they've had more like 9, 10, 11 kickers now since the last. This
is 2019 and 20, and this will be the second kicker this year. They had 2 last year.
Take it to 11 kickers?
This will be 9 kickers, including Santoso, who never even attempted a field goal. He only kicked off for the team.
I get it. I'm getting a headache. I don't know if it's from the smell that's going in this building.
Something's burning.
Or if it's from just the kicking. Kickers just keep flowing through here. Because I'm telling you now, I told you I don't know nothing about kicking. So I would leave my kicker alone. Hey, when he makes a field goal, I give him the point from a distance.
Right.
And I'm walking the other way. He misses, I'm walking the other way.
Right.
Yeah, hey, I'm staying out of his head because kicking is a head deal. You can mess up a kick. You go over and MF him about missing an extra point. Oh, man, now you may not have the kicker for the field goal that you need. You can't say, oh, what happened? I shanked it, coach. I pulled. I know they know exactly what they did immediately.
Oh, they know.
I don't have time for that. Go practice at the net.
Right.
You and your net friend. And just kick and just do your job and try to do your best. We got the gimmies we got to make. The extra points and these shorter field goals, they got to come. 40 and in, that's just automatic for me. You got to make those. So, yeah, you leave those guys alone. Yeah. You thank them after you give them the game ball for making the game-winning field goal.
Right.
That's about as much talking as you doing to them. Because they're separate from the team. People don't realize they are actually separate from the team. At practice, they're on their own little island, as you're talking about. The other field, practicing over there, the punter, kicker, and then Kern's the holder. So he's helping the kicker too. So they're over there together. And then they only come over and they say, special teams, field goal. And then they run over from the other field, kick the field goals, how many ever they're doing, and then they run their kicking butts back to the other field. Sometimes they're not even out there. They inside. They in the bubble.
They've done their work for
They're doing the bubble. They may be practicing. I mean, let them do their deal.
Right.
Hey, man, I'd be like, hey, man, hopefully we get him next time, man. I know you're not going to make them all, but we got to have that extra point. We can't miss it, man.
I mean, they have been just – this is unbelievable that we're
It
still
is.
talking about
You know what's so bad? We were spoiled. We were spoiled because we had suck up. Then we had always had long-term kickers.
Yeah.
So it never became an issue and never had one get injured.
And
really.
they've essentially, other than a game or two, this franchise, since you came here, has had 2 punters.
Right.
Other than when Hendrick or Kern were injured.
Mm-hmm.
And heck, Kern only got here because Hendrick is back. And, he just said, he tried to retire and he came back. But anyway, he taught Kern everything he knew. We're talking about since 1999, since the team has been the Titans, it's essentially had 2 punters. Now, they've had 9 kickers since 2019.
Man.
I mean, this is just.
I mean, you got to start saying, man.
This stuff up.
I mean, I told you my head hurt now. My right side is hurting. Like I am actually kicking. I mean, that would just give me pain. Like, man, what? Are we doing something? Are we doing something wrong? I'd start messing with my head. I mean, dang, Fickin, how did he hurt his groin? What is he doing?
It was on Friday, remember?
These dudes, those guys are so flexible. They stretch all the time. Man, they can do the splits.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys, I definitely couldn't do no splits. That's why I would be leaving them kickers. I'll be sick. I hope. Can Fickin come back this year, right? He's on the
He's on IR, so he's got 2 more games until he can come back.
So maybe the injury wasn't as bad, and they're just trying to survive till then.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to put him out there and make it worse until it's actually healed. In the meantime, he's probably not doing a lot of kicking. So he's still going to be a little rusty.
I saw somebody
That's
tweet.
the luck of there. They bring him back up in 2 weeks. Then he goes out there and just has a horrible day.
Somebody tweeted this stat, and I'm sorry, but I don't remember who it was. I'll never find it. But it was basically, and if it's yours, tweet me, and I'll give you full credit, that essentially Mike Vrabel, 30% of the time, it was 29%, it's a 1-score game with Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, that's why you got to have a
And you've said
kicker.
that over and over. That's why you got to have a kicker. Go out there and make a field goal. Go out there and win the 1 score. Make the 1 score.
Well, especially their style of play is based off of Derrick Henry running the football, and we know a little bit about that, and I do too, with Eddie George. And so all those games were close. I mean, Alda Grekus was almost automatic until 99. Or 2000. Yeah, 2000. Yeah. When he was still, even that year, he was automatic. He won the Philly game. I think that was a walk-off. That was beautiful in Philly. And then he just had a horrific playoff game, and then, boop, there you're done. The Penguin, Aldell Grekus.
Yeah.
He was automatic, man.
golf
He won
coach.
a lot of games. Mm-hmm. This is the same style.
Yeah.
Except, we're in 2021.
Well, remember, I think it was the Lions and Lucas. He seems to have a mind like a steel trap. I think the Lions basically just cut all their kickers to get to 53 and then just signed a kicker the next week.
Yeah, they did have a
They didn't have
hot
a
minute
kicker.
without a kicker.
They went a few days without even having a kicker. Like Dan Campbell's like, yeah, just
Are
call
you
the
even
island.
surprised with the way
Send it
Dan
to
Campbell
somebody. No,
talks?
I'm not surprised at all. They just cut all their kickers. And then it's like, we'll just find one next week. We'll call the island.
There's some
They'll
out
send
there,
us
so
one.
we need
Right.
this spot, but we know we can get a kicker. Well, guess what? I'm going to just say this. When you're the Detroit Lions, you can do something like that. But when you're the Titans and you know you have a really good team, you're not messing around with no kicker, putting him out there on the waiver wire, man.
Let's mess around with Jordan Dajani. He's going to join us next to talk all things NFL. Our buddy from CBS Sports up next on Blaine and Mickey.
Sorry, Detroit Lions fans.
Coming up today on the 3HL.
Coach Mack hits the radio.
And we cannot wait for Todd Furman to come through to drop exactly the knowledge that we need to get out and make our bets.
I need winners. You need
I
winners?
gotta have one.
Gotta have them.
It hurt last week.
Let's do it.
Today, starting at 3 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Yeah, we had a good conversation. Obviously it wasn't the best combo it could be because the Packers got absolutely walloped by the Saints in week 1. But, we talked about what his mindset was and the franchise's goals moving forward. He made sure to tell everyone to relax. They're going to be just fine. We talked about Aaron Rodgers, what makes him such a special quarterback, things like that. So definitely going to have an interview and something written about that coming up on CBSSports.com probably tomorrow.
Well, it's interesting. The Titans and the Packers, literally somebody tweeted at our show Sunday night late, or we were doing – our show was us and Kevin Dyson when we do the pre- and the post-game show, Jordan, and somebody said, hey, it could be worse. We could be the Packers. If you look at who laid the biggest 2 eggs in week 1, I know they both played good teams, but it had to be the Titans and the Packers, especially when you look at how far the score got spread out, and the Pack got it even worse.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Those are definitely the 2 candidates for teams who laid the biggest eggs in week 1, but I think I'd have to lean towards the Packers in terms of being the biggest disappointment. The Saints team was expected to be entering a completely new era, a lot of question marks, Jameis Winston taking over for Drew Brees. How exactly was that going to look? Not to dive too deeply into it, but I was absolutely fascinated by his new role in Sean Payton's offense. I think it's going to be very successful moving forward, but that doesn't exactly explain why the Packers scored just a measly 3 points. That was pretty incredible. Aaron Rodgers, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They got shaken around on both sides of the ball. So that was very surprising, but I think that we all understand in the NFL world, the Packers and, yes, the Titans, they are expected to be contenders this season. It wasn't a glamorous week 1 showing, but I know that everyone anticipates these 2 teams are going to bounce back.
Jordan Dajani, our guest here on Blaine and Mickey. He's with CBS Sports. He is at Jordan Dajani. He's the only Jordan Dajani on Twitter that I know of.
Oh, man. Well, we started off with Dak and Tampa Bay and Brady. Man, and they finished last night with the Raiders and Ravens. What did you think about that game? And, oh, by the way, Darren Waller, the future Hall of Famer, as Gruden said, he was the best player that he ever coached. I think some guys may be a little disappointed that he said that. But, man, what did you think about that game? How exciting, right?
Yeah, I'm sure some players were a little bit upset. I think John Gruden was just riding high. He had some quote talking about how he felt like he died and then came back to life like 4 times. I think that's how every NFL fan felt watching this game. It was fascinating. The comeback that the Raiders were able to engineer, 17 points scored in the fourth quarter to take it to overtime, and then we all know how bonkers overtime got. It looked like Derek Carr didn't really have it through the first 3 quarters, and he was able to rebound and get his offense moving, and they were able to pull off the upset win. I was excited because I had the Raiders on the money line. I saw this game as one that was going to be an upset just because of the environment that I anticipated was going to be taking place in Vegas, and sure enough, it did not let us down. But, Lamar Jackson, one of the best players in the NFL, undoubtedly the kind of dual-threat capable athlete he is, but he was unable to carry his team to victory. I think that's something to watch moving forward. Tyson Williams had an okay game, 65 yards on the ground as the new starting running back for the Ravens. He had a touchdown as well. But this will be an interesting thing to watch as we move forward. How exactly are the Ravens going to shake things up on offense? But shout out to the Raiders. That was a very fun game. This Raiders team has potential to beat any team in the NFL on any given Sunday. We saw that last year. They were the only team to defeat Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. So that's another interesting team to watch as we move forward through the regular season.
I guess, what was your biggest surprise? Like, what team, played really well and won, and you say, man, and they also had some individual, great performances as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I could point to a lot of different teams and players. One game that I was interested in watching was actually the Denver Broncos. I was kind of I was a little critical of the decision to go with Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock. I thought Drew Lock could be a quarterback who adds more to your offense than Teddy Bridgewater does. But Teddy Bridgewater played fantastic. And I don't know if you guys saw the highlights, but he has a Derrick Henry-like stiff arm. That guy was evading tacklers in the pocket like nothing else, and he threw for 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. They look like the dominant team against the New York Giants squad that has some work to do. So I was pretty impressed with what the Denver Broncos did, and I think that's important to note because when you examine this roster top to bottom, both sides of the ball, the Broncos really do look like a contender on paper, but it's just how exactly it's how they're going to play together, really, on both sides of the ball. They have a lot of good weapons on offense, but can they play as a cohesive unit? And that's really going to come down to Teddy Bridgewater. So a great start for this team. Excited to see what they do throughout the regular season.
Well, Jordan, tell me what you saw in the Colts-Seahawks game, because in the highlights, I thought I saw Russell Wilson be more emotional than I have ever seen him throughout a season or even in a game. So, man, what did they do there? And it looked like he was just throwing bombs away, but kind of take us through what that game was actually like.
Yeah, that was a fun game to watch, and I think a lot of people probably chose the Seahawks in their Survivor Pool League, which was a good pick. But, I think the biggest addition the Seahawks made this offseason was actually offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. I think he opened up a lot of doors for Russell Wilson in terms of what he wants to do downfield. And we know, looking at this wide receiving corps with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, even Chris Carson getting involved as well, like what this offense can be capable of. Now, it, of course, comes down to maintaining consistency. That's something the Seahawks haven't been able to do for a full 16, now 17-game regular season. But, all signs point to this team being one of the best in the NFL, and the NFC West went undefeated in week 1, so that's something to note as well. But offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, he looked like the biggest addition for this Seahawks offense. I'm excited to see what they do as we progress through the regular season, how this dynamic offensive attack, how great they can really be. But, yeah, man, if you checked out that game, you checked out the highlights, it was just wide receivers running free in the secondary. And sure enough, Russell Wilson had a huge game.
We're on with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
Jordan, it was interesting because with the Seahawks, the reviews were so great on Shane Waldron, as you talked about. Russell Wilson had his second highest rated quarterback game of his entire career in week 1. That's how well he's meshed into that system. Meanwhile, I think I saw Eric Eager of Pro Football Focus tweet that Todd Downing broke the meter that they use to measure efficiency with coordinators with how bad the first Titans game was. Two different stories for two teams that are about to play each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you brought up the Titans. I don't know how much you guys have talked about this, but you know what my immediate takeaway was? And I mean, the first thing I thought of through one quarter of play in the Titans-Cardinals game, preseason football matters. No, it's not entertaining, but it has a purpose. It has meaning. Remember when Kyler Murray and the Cardinals' first-team offense went 3 and out 3 separate times against Kansas City in the preseason?
Yep,
they took their lumps. They got back on the same page. They reconvened when it came to their offensive philosophy, and they were able to put out a clean product in the opening week. The Titans, on the other hand, they were not on the same page at all. They didn't win in any facet of the game. And, I think that, like I said, I think we all anticipate Tannehill's going to be better. Henry's going to be even more efficient. The wide receiving core is going to look better. But, that lack of preseason in terms of the team's philosophies when they don't want to start their starters, they open themselves up to not being on the same page when football games begin to matter here in early September. So, at the same time, it also exacerbated some of the weaknesses that we anticipated when it comes to the Titans in terms of the offensive line play, in terms of the secondary getting beat play in, play out. So I think preseason football matters, man, and I think that was one of my biggest takeaways from week 1 as a whole.
Jordan Dajani, and here's another thing. There's a new show on Fox called Kicker Island, and it's just about all the kickers who are moderately unemployed and they live on an island together because all teams just get people out of this same group of people over and over and recycle them. Titans are getting ready to recycle another kicker. This time it's a guy they used to see with the Texans, Randy Bullock. Come on down. 9th kicker for this team since 2019.
This is unbelievable. And, I think that the Titans are not the only team struggling to find a consistent kicker. I wonder if it's something that has to do with us moving the extra point back. I mean, like Blaine said, it really is a mind game when it comes to your success as a kicker. It's almost like being a golfer. And as soon as you start to struggle and you find yourself on the practice squad and then you're playing for different practice squads, being called up to the active roster, if you don't have a good showing in that one game, then you could be cut. You could be, delegated to the practice squad again. It's really interesting. And, I don't know how to solve this problem exactly because I was cautiously optimistic for the Money Badger. I thought he could potentially be somewhat of a long-term answer for the Titans. But after his poor showing on Sunday, obviously that's not going to happen. So now we move on to Randy Bullock. He had some good years with the Bengals. As you mentioned, we were pretty familiar with him due to his time with the Houston Texans. I have no choice but to try to be cautiously optimistic moving forward. I'm interested to see what happens with Sam Ficken. He's on IR. He's going to miss at least the next 2 games. I haven't been following the story, so I don't know how necessarily beat up he is. I don't know if he's going to be able to return sooner rather than later. But, yeah, man, the Titans are facing some serious issues at kicker, which is very important if you want to be a contender in this league.
Jordan Dajani is a contender every week with us here on Blaine and Mickey talking NFL.
No doubt about it, Jordan. I guess give us an update. You know, I saw a little bit of the Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, but kind of take us through what, all these first-year quarterbacks are doing as of this moment after week 1.
Yeah, let's start with Mac Jones. I was very impressed with what he did with the Patriots. You know, his first snap throwing the ball, he fumbled. It didn't look like he was going to be on the fast track to success. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was pretty funny.
Wow.
But he was able to rebound, and I think he played a very good game. Now, a late fumble obviously cost New England their chances to win that game, but overall, 281 passing yards, 1 touchdown. I thought it was a successful outing. You should be very amped up if you're a Patriots fan. Now, on the other side, Zach Wilson, he had a pretty up and down game. He didn't really get going until the second half. That's when they scored their 14 points. They went scoreless through the first 2 quarters. His protection was very subpar, so you can't blame him for that. I thought his awareness could have been up a tick, but at the same time, he also had a lot of wide receivers dropping balls as well. So this is an issue that, we anticipated the Jets having to deal with, just getting on the same page with the rookie quarterback, seeing what his tendencies are as an offensive coordinator so that you can move forward in a successful manner. So Zach Wilson didn't have exactly an amazing debut, but I'm excited to see what he does moving forward. As for Trevor Lawrence, I remember last week when I was on with you guys, I took out my flamethrower and I said a hot take as in, I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is going to find success under Urban Meyer. Well, I think he kind of proved me wrong. So his stat line wasn't incredibly impressive, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but he showed that versatility in terms of him being able to roll outside the pocket, hit his wide receivers downfield. He took a lot of risks. There's no doubt about that. But when you're a rookie quarterback in week 1, I think I kind of want to see that, especially if you're a rebuilding franchise like the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I liked what I saw out of Trevor Lawrence. I think we all anticipate he's going to get better as the year progresses as well.
We're on with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports. Last one for me, and that is bold prediction. Who wins Rookie of the Year on the offense and defense?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, yeah, I think I flipped. I think I had a really hot take when I was on with you guys earlier. I said Denver Broncos running back Javonte Williams was my pick, but I like that pick. But at the same time, I think you're better suited if you want to win money to actually pick a quarterback. And after seeing Mac Jones with Bill Belichick, I mean, he's kind of set up for success in this division that's pretty wide open with one of the best coaches of all time. He has a pretty good offensive line. The wide receiving core is a little bit improved. 2 really good tight ends, a good stable of running backs. I'm interested in Mac Jones. He's probably the leader at the clubhouse, in my opinion, right here. But as for defense, I still like Micah Parsons a lot. He didn't have a great debut against the Buccaneers, but he's still a player who is absolutely NFL ready. I think he's going to make an impact moving forward for this team as a starter.
And one more real quick, though. This game was really good. I was watching some of this game, and that was the Chiefs and the Browns. I mean, man, the Browns looked like they were the real deal. They let it slip away from them, but it was at Kansas City. I mean, what did you think about that game?
Yeah, the thing that really stood out to me about this game is the hot start that the Browns got up to. I think that's a formula for success if you want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, of course, that victory did not come to fruition. Baker Mayfield made a bad decision trying to throw the ball away on the final drive of the game. But the Chiefs are the Chiefs, man. No one likes moral victories, but if you're a Browns fan, I thought that you could probably reach for a moral victory here in week 1. The Browns, it seems like, have officially turned over a new chapter. They're going to be a contender moving forward. It was interesting that Baker Mayfield did not throw a touchdown through the air. I don't think I would have anticipated that. I probably lost money on that prop. But we all know that this running back duo of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is going to be absolutely incredible. I thought it was interesting that David Njoku had a really good showing. He led the Browns in receiving. They have a rookie out of Auburn by the name of Anthony Schwartz, who's a speedster. Keep an eye on him. This Browns team is going to be very good. But the Kansas City Chiefs are the Kansas City Chiefs. I would anticipate there is still going to be one of the better teams in the NFL this year.
I'm going with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
Jordan, what do you think Urban Meyer has called his agent as far as dirty words this week? Because, he's like, hey, man, why didn't you just tell me to hold on for this USC job? Then I could just go be the king of USC for a few years and not have to deal with losing in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's really funny. I'm sure you guys saw the video today of him being asked a question about USC and just seeing his body language. And it's kind of funny because when this job came open, I'm going to be real with you guys. I was like, okay, he's one game into his NFL career. There's no way this is going to happen. Like, I don't get all the hype around it. But then when he was asked the question and he started putting his hands in his pockets and looking at the ground and twisting around like he was a kid who got caught with his hand in a cookie jar, I thought that was pretty funny. But at the same time, I don't anticipate some crazy move happening along those lines with him, being a legitimate candidate for this USC job. We're too early in the regular season to talk about that. But yeah, the Jaguars, man, they were one of the biggest disappointments of week one as well, because we all anticipated the Houston Texans would be the worst team in the NFL, but it looks like they're going to be better than the Jaguars, at least through the early portions of the regular season.
Jordan, that's the first place Houston Texans. Put some respect on that.
Absolutely.
One guy who I know will have people fired up because they're America's team. I was blown away with how well Dak Prescott played. Absolutely blown away. Not that he hasn't been great at times in his career, but it's been so long, and that dude just came and balled the heck out.
Oh, I was too. 403 yards, 3 touchdowns. Even the interception he threw was a perfect throw. I think it was the CD Lamb between 3 defenders, and he wasn't able to reel it in, and it resulted in an interception. Dak Prescott came and absolutely balled out. I was shocked that he threw the ball 58 times. Coming off of that shoulder soreness, weird injury designation, I didn't know exactly how he was going to look. But, he looks fantastic. And that's great for the Cowboys in terms of your franchise quarterback, yada, yada. I get that. But I think our eyes should just be on the Cowboys as a team as a whole, right? Dak Prescott still wasn't able to lead, a game-winning drive with a touchdown. This defense still does not look very good at all. They face another tough test in the Los Angeles Chargers here in week 2. I think that game's going to be very telling, because if they win this game and win it by at least a touchdown, then I think that we can be very optimistic about Dallas's chances in the postseason, at least moving forward. But if they lose this game, then we're all going to have to take a step back and kind of reconvene and try to see what the Cowboys' ceiling is really going to be moving forward. So, yes, Dak Prescott, absolutely a very good quarterback, no doubt about that. But when it comes to this team as a whole, that's what really wins Super Bowls. That's what really contenders are built on, right? It comes down to the 53-man roster, not just how good your quarterback is. So that's a storyline to keep an eye on as we move forward.
Man, good stuff. Jordan Dajani, you can follow him at Jordan Dajani on Twitter. Read all of his stuff at CBS Sports. Thanks, man. Look forward to catching up with you. Same time, same channel again next week.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Jordan.
Yes, sir. Jordan Dajani. We come back. I put a poll out there earlier. We had Jimmy Hyams on, and we were asking him about quarterback stuff, and he kind of went through all 3 quarterbacks. And I guess Josh Heupel today even talked about Harrison Bailey a little bit and said great things. But here's the question on Blaine and Mickey Twitter. You can go there and answer who should start at quarterback for the Vols. I'll tell you where we are with that when we come back. A couple of these numbers might really surprise you. I'll share that next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Your Titans head to the Pacific Northwest, where Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks await.
Let's see what we're going to get.
Coverage starts Sunday at noon, and then kickoff at 3:25 on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone.
But Jimmy.
Hooker's he looks comfortable running the offense, and he's a real experienced guy, just like Joe Milton. And I know Hendon had a couple of turnovers, and Jimmy Hyams was on with us earlier, and he talked about the throw that he made that got picked off. He should have seen, he should have seen that. Should have maybe had better vision there. I guess both quarterbacks got hit and fumbled in the game, but
Hooker just looked more efficient.
Yeah.
Really. He looked like a quarterback. I feel like Milton looks like an athlete with an atomic rocket arm. And that's it. And we're 4 years in now. The guy already graduated from Michigan. Now he's on this in 3 years, by the way, which is an accomplishment in itself. Hats off to him. Now you're in your 4th year, and you still look somewhat the same. And Hype was supposed to be the guru. Well, the guru can't contain this rocket of an arm. I don't care. Remember, I'm not real big on your quarterback is a field. They quit talking about practice. Remember, that's the same thing Butch Jones used to say about Dobbs. I'm like, well, obviously when he gets in the game, he doesn't look like he does at practice. So, when the lights come on, maybe old Milton gets a little too hyped up and starts just, letting it launch. I mean, that ball is, if he just can get that, well, in practice, there is not the adrenaline rush. There's not pressure. There's not last seconds. So there's a lot of, things going on that's different than practice. So it's 2 games in. And I know Heupel doesn't want to be wrong. So he's going to give him the attaboy here. He's going to continue. So he's going to soft play it and be like, well, he's injured. He could play, but we're just going to let Hooker. It's Tennessee Tech. And guess what? Against Tennessee Tech, Hooker's going to look probably great. And they're going to, we're going with Hooker. No, what happens against Tennessee Tech?
Right.
Yeah, that's what they're going to say. So, and then I think they should let Bailey get in there. If Bailey's not even close, I mean, man, what does that say about the rating system? Man, I mean, he has to be able to be in the flow. And everybody's talking about you have to be a running quarterback. Heupel's offense, you don't have to be a running quarterback. I can't recall any of those quarterbacks running at UCF. So that's a misnomer there. Maybe he just thinks these guys are better. And, sometimes you make a bad judgment. And one of them was Joe Milton was going to be your guy regardless because you wanted him and you thought he was better than the other ones because, he has a stronger arm. He sure does. He does. But is it accurate? And is it on time? Not always the best athlete is the.
You've talked about this some with all these quarterback, the big rookie class. And one of the things you brought up repeatedly is, look, the team is going to know whether or not that guy's ready to start. We've talked about this a lot with the NFL just because of all the rookie quarterbacks. And you said you're going to lose the team if you pick the wrong guy because they know who should be starting.
Well, if you make the wrong choice and it wasn't clear.
Yep.
Clear as day. And then all of a sudden, some guys, when the lights click on, they just play better. That was Dobbs at the time.
Got a call here on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline. I'll share with you our poll results. But, Andy, give us a little bit here. We got a little bit of time to talk. What's going on?
Ain't nobody ever had a rocket arm like Brett Favre did. I mean, come on, I'm right on that one.
Yeah,
Blaine had to play against that guy.
I don't know if he could throw as far as Milton though. But you're right. Yeah, Brett Favre had he would. Oh man, a lot of those guys was breaking fingers and dislocating them in the games.
So what they did with him is they set like 55-gallon trash cans up in all 4 corners of the end zone and made him throw and landed in that trash can without knocking it over.
Right. They used to call that drop it in the bucket.
Broke him from stuff. Huh?
Yeah, they call that drop it in the bucket. Yep, they did.
Yeah, and I don't, I'm no coach. I fix air conditioners, so. But that's
you're
what they did.
You're the smartest
for
one of all,
years.
dude. If you understand that stuff.
Say again.
I said you're the smartest one of all if you can fix air conditioners.
Oh, I'm a little older. I've been doing that for a minute. So, but I know that's how they got Favre to quit throwing those line drive 50, 60-yard passes was making throw them that drop in the bucket like Blaine said. And, I don't know if they're trying that with Milton, but, I mean, I'm an Alabama fan, but Ron Slade got me actually pulling for UT except when they play Alabama. But, so I want to see him do good. I think Heupel's on the right track. But man, they got to teach that guy how to get some air under that ball instead of that just.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times and places for that arm, but 50 yards away on a zip string is not how you throw that ball.
Yeah, when a guy's 30 yards down the field,
and that's a great
pass.
point that he's making. And now that leads me to, is in year 4, Milton who he's going to be?
It's year 4.
I mean, this guy's been playing. So he had those same issues. Jimmy Hyams said it. Accuracy, on point, going through his progression rate. It seems like those same issues seem like they're still cropping up. And we're talking about against, Pitt, who's probably a good ACC team, not a great one, a really good one. And then you're talking about Bowling Green.
And Bowling Green, maybe the worst defensive team in Division I football. Yeah, Milton is 51.4% passing in 2 games so far with the Vols. He's 56.6% in Michigan. And here's the poll results. So I hear the Eagles, which means we got to fly away for 3HL.